Welcome to War Bios, where we delve into the lives of history's most fascinating military figures. Today, we embark on a journey through the life of Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, better known as El Cid, the legendary Castilian warrior whose name has become synonymous with courage, honor, and unwavering dedication to duty. As we explore the early years of this iconic figure, you'll discover how his formative experiences shaped the character that would one day inspire countless tales of heroism and conquest. Born around N40 AD in the town of Vivar near the city of Burgos, El Cid's early life was marked by the tumultuous landscape of medieval Spain. The Iberian Peninsula was a complex tapestry of Christian kingdoms, Moorish caliphates, and petty fiefdoms, all vying for power and influence. It was within this dynamic environment that Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar grew up, surrounded by the sights, sounds, and values of a warrior culture. The rolling hills, dense forests, and rugged mountains of Castile would have been his playground, where he learned to ride, hunt, and fight alongside his brothers and friends. As a member of the minor nobility, El Cid's family was deeply rooted in the traditions of Castilian knighthood. His father, Diego Lainez, was a respected military leader who had fought alongside King Ferdinand I of Leon and Castile, while his mother, Rodriguez, came from a family of modest means but strong social standing. This blending of martial valor and humble origins would later influence El Cid's own approach to leadership and his unwavering commitment to justice. The young Rodrigo would have heard stories of his father's bravery in battle, as well as the struggles of his mother's family to maintain their honor and status in a society governed by strict codes of chivalry. The young Rodrigo spent his childhood in the midst of a rapidly changing world. The Christian kingdoms of northern Spain were expanding their territories, pushing against the borders of the Moorish states in the south. This era of Reconquista would shape El Cid's worldview and inform his future military campaigns. As a boy, he would have heard tales of brave warriors, epic battles, and the struggle for dominance between Christians and Muslims. He would have seen the devastating effects of war firsthand, witnessing the displacement of populations, the destruction of towns, and the loss of loved ones. El Cid's education and training were typical of a young nobleman of his time. He would have received instruction in arms, horsemanship, and chivalry, as well as basic literacy and knowledge of Latin and the Bible. However, it was his practical experience on the battlefield that would ultimately prove most formative. As a teenager, El Cid likely participated in skirmishes and raids against neighboring Moorish territories, honing his skills as a warrior and developing a deep understanding of the tactics and strategies employed by both Christian and Muslim forces. One of the most significant events of El Cid's early life was the reign of King Ferdinand I, who had unified the kingdoms of Leon and Castile. The king's military campaigns against the Moors would have been a source of inspiration for the young Rodrigo, who would have seen firsthand the effectiveness of well-organized armies and the importance of strategic leadership. The king's death in 1065, however, sparked a succession crisis that would have far-reaching consequences for the region. The ensuing power struggle between Ferdinand's sons, Sancho II of Castile and Alfonso VI of Leon, would create an environment of uncertainty and instability where alliances were forged and broken with ease. The Moors, who had once been a dominant force in the Iberian Peninsula, were now facing challenges from within and without. Their internal conflicts would provide an opening for Christian kingdoms to launch attacks and gain territory, further fueling the flames of Reconquista. The values of honor, loyalty, and martial prowess that defined his upbringing would remain with him throughout his life, influencing his decisions as a commander and shaping the legend that would one day surround his name. The young Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar was already forging the character that would make him a hero to some and a nemesis to others, a man whose unwavering commitment to duty and justice would inspire generations to come. In this tumultuous world of medieval Spain, El Cid's early years were marked by a sense of purpose and direction. He was being groomed for greatness, not just as a warrior, but as a leader who would shape the course of history. The challenges he faced, the lessons he learned, and the relationships he formed would all contribute to the development of his character, setting him on a path that would lead him to become one of the most celebrated figures in Spanish history. As El Cid's reputation as a skilled warrior and leader grew, he became increasingly embroiled in the complex web of alliances and rivalries between the Christian kingdoms of northern Spain. The year 1065 marked a significant turning point in his career, as King Ferdinand III sparked a power struggle between his sons, Sancho II of Castile and Alfonso VI of Leon. El Cid, who had by then become a trusted advisor and military commander to Sancho II, found himself at the forefront of the conflict, leading campaigns against the Moors and earning a reputation for bravery and tactical genius. One notable example of El Cid's military prowess during this period was his participation in the siege of Zaragoza, which took place in 1065. The city, a strategic stronghold of the Moorish kingdom of Al-Andalus, had been under attack by Christian forces for months, but it was El Cid who led the decisive charge that breached the city walls and captured the fortress. As he rode into battle, his armor glinting in the sunlight, his men followed closely behind, inspired by their commander's fearlessness and strategic brilliance. The siege of Zaragoza was a masterclass in medieval warfare, with El Cid employing a combination of clever tactics and brute force to break the city's defenses. He began by launching a series of probing attacks on the city's outer walls, testing the Moorish defenders' resolve and identifying weaknesses in their lines. As the days passed, he gradually intensified the assault, bringing up siege engines and catapults to batter the walls and gates. Finally, after weeks of relentless pressure, the city's defenses began to crumble, and El Cid led the charge that breached the walls and captured the fortress. El Cid's relationships with his contemporaries were also crucial to his success during this period. He formed close alliances with other powerful nobles, including the Count of Barcelona, Ramon Berenguer I, and the King of Navarre, Sancho IV. These alliances allowed El Cid to mobilize large armies and launch coordinated attacks against the Moors, further expanding Christian territories and solidifying his own position as a leading military commander. He was a skilled diplomat and strategist, able to navigate the complex web of alliances and rivalries that characterized medieval Spanish politics. In 1072, El Cid's lord, Sancho II of Castile, was assassinated, and Alfonso VI of Leon seized the throne of Castile. El Cid, who had been a loyal supporter of Sancho, found himself at odds with the new king and was forced to flee Castile to avoid persecution. He took refuge in the Kingdom of Aragon, where he was welcomed by King Sancho Ramirez, who recognized his military genius and offered him a place at his court. This period of exile proved to be a significant challenge for El Cid, as he was forced to adapt to new circumstances and navigate unfamiliar terrain. During his exile, El Cid continued to wage war against the Moors, launching a series of successful raids and campaigns that earned him even greater renown. In 1081, he captured the city of Valencia, which became a key stronghold for Christian forces in the region. This victory was all the more significant because it marked a major turning point in the Reconquista, as it gave Christians control over a crucial port city and opened up new trade routes with the Mediterranean. As El Cid's fame grew, so did his legend. He became known as El Campeador, or the Champion, and was celebrated in songs and stories throughout the Christian kingdoms of Spain. His military campaigns were seen as a symbol of Christian resistance against the Moorish occupation, and he became a unifying figure for the warring kingdoms of northern Spain. The medieval historian Ibn al-Quchya wrote, "El Cid was a man of great courage and strength, who fought tirelessly against the enemies of God and his people." This assessment, written by a Moorish chronicler, highlights the respect and admiration that El Cid earned from his contemporaries. Regardless of their faith or allegiance, the years that followed were marked by continued military campaigns and strategic alliances as El Cid navigated the complex landscape of medieval Spanish politics. His relationships with other nobles and monarchs remained crucial to his success, and he continued to expand Christian territories through a series of bold military maneuvers. The capture of Valencia in 1081 marked a major milestone in this process, but it was only one of many significant victories that El Cid would achieve in the years that followed. As El Cid's military campaigns continued to expand Christian territories, he also focused on consolidating his power and securing his legacy, navigating the treacherous landscape of medieval Spanish politics with the strategic acumen of a master chess player. The year 1094 marked a pivotal moment in this endeavor, as he captured the city of Alicante, a key stronghold that would become a linchpin for Christian forces in the region. This victory was significant not only because it gave Christians control over a crucial port city, but also because it marked a major turning point in the Reconquista, opening up new trade routes with the Mediterranean and weakening Moorish control over the Iberian Peninsula. The city's strategic location, perched on a rocky outcropping overlooking the sea, made it a formidable fortress that had withstood numerous sieges in the past. Yet, El Cid's forces breached its defenses through a combination of cunning, bravery, and sheer determination, exploiting the vulnerabilities in the Moorish lines to secure a decisive victory. As news of the conquest spread, El Cid's reputation as a military commander grew, attracting the attention of other powerful nobles who sought to form alliances with him. He formed close relationships with the King of Aragon, Pedro I, and the Count of Barcelona, Berenguer Ramon II, forging a network of strategic partnerships that would allow him to mobilize large armies and launch coordinated attacks against the Moors. These alliances were not merely pragmatic arrangements, but also reflected El Cid's deep understanding of the complex web of interests and loyalties that defined medieval Spanish politics. One notable example of El Cid's strategic genius was his campaign against the Moorish city of Valencia in 1094. By leveraging his alliances with other Christian nobles, he was able to assemble a massive army that outnumbered the Moorish defenders. Yet, instead of launching a direct assault on the city walls, El Cid opted for a more nuanced approach, using his knowledge of the terrain to outflank the enemy and cut off their supply lines. This clever maneuver ultimately led to the surrender of the city, marking a significant milestone in the Reconquista. In 1099, as El Cid's health began to decline, he became increasingly concerned about the future of his conquests, knowing that his death could lead to a power vacuum and undermine the fragile alliances he had forged. He named his wife, Jimena, as his successor, entrusting her with the task of defending their territories against Moorish attacks, a decision that reflected both his confidence in her abilities and his deep sense of loyalty to those who had stood by him throughout his campaigns. As El Cid lay on his deathbed, surrounded by his family and loyal followers, he must have reflected on the weight of his legacy, knowing that his actions had reshaped the course of Spanish history. The medieval historian Ibn al-Qutiyya would later write, "El Cid was a man of great courage and strength who fought tirelessly against the enemies of God and his people." His death was a blow to the Christians, but his legacy lived on, inspiring future generations to continue the fight against the Moors. Today, El Cid is remembered as one of the most important figures in Spanish history, and his legacy continues to inspire and influence people around the world. He is celebrated as a hero and a symbol of Christian resistance against Islamic occupation, and his military campaigns are studied by historians and strategists as examples of brilliant tactics and leadership. His was a life marked by contradictions, a warrior who was also a poet, a leader who was also a follower, a man driven by both ambition and compassion. In the end, El Cid's legacy is not just about his military conquests or his role in shaping the course of Spanish history. It is about the enduring power of his example, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, courage, determination, and strategic brilliance can lead to victory. As the Spanish poet Jorge Manrique wrote, "His name will live on, forever etched in the annals of history, a reminder of the power of courage and determination in the face of adversity." That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, I'm General Biography, reminding you to keep marching toward victory.